Alright, we are covering the buckwheat family. Woot woot! The Latin name Polygoniaceae, or informally known as knotweed, smartweed. So two of the plants we chose are in the genus Eriogonum, wild buck or wild buckwheat, and has a penchant for hybridization, which has not only resulted in over 250 Eriogonium species, but also a large number of varieties within species. We chose this species for how common the subspecies are in the state of Utah. Subspecies such as short stem buckwheat, lacy buckwheat, Hercules buckwheat, and James buckwheat. Ranging from North Dakota to Colorado and over to Nevada, buckwheat is a varied genus and has adapted to fill many different niches in the given environment. Utah's incredibly diverse geography and its unique geologic and soil characteristics have created special microhabitats where a spectacular diversity of life has evolved. In many cases, these habitats are harsh, arid lands on which plant specialists have found a niche. Environmental extremes in the desert, such as high temperature or low rainfall, prompt evolutionary adaptations that eventually lead to speciation. For example, cushion plants are common in the plateau. These are compact, low-growing mats, often with large and deep taproots adapted to grow in a nutrient-poor and water-restricted environment like Utah. In Utah deserts, many different buckwheat and milkvetch species adopted the cushion plant structure and formed new species. Variations in elevation can also isolate species and create localized versions of widespread plants. High elevation areas can act as islands within the Colorado Plateau, separating plants into distinct populations until they diverge over time.
The important species we decided to cover is the mountain sorrel, or Oxyria digena, which was used by the Inuit in northern Canada. The Frisco buckwheat, or Aragonum sordium, which is endemic to Beaver County and also a candidate for federal protection. The last one we chose is the crispleaf wild buckwheat, which is Aragonum corobosum. The Hopi pressed boiled stalks into cakes that, when dried, were eaten with salt. Good. To help recognize the species, buckwheats are famous for their triangular seeds and the clusters of flowers they produce. In the mountain sorrel, the flowers are greenish and the two whorls are unequally sized. The inner whorl is about 2 millimeters long, it's erect and broadly obovate, and it persists in the fruit. The outer whorl is about 2 millimeters long, spreading and narrowly elliptic. There are 6 stamens, and the pistil is formed from 2 fused carpels with 2 styles. The leaves are long and stalked and hairless, in a basal rosette. Leaves are kidney-shaped and somewhat fleshy, and brownish red. The fruit have broad wings, and there are remains of stigmas in the sicup notch. When ripe, wings are red. With the crispleaf wild buckwheat, after flowering, the fruits and branches turn bright red and persist into the winter. The older the plants get, the more pink the flowers get. They start off white. The plant has multiple branches, and they can get up to 3 feet tall, and the branches turn red after blooming. And the blooming is in July and October. With the Frisco buckwheat, the leaves are short and oval and covered on both sides by small white hairs that are only about 5 millimeters long. The white pinkish flowers in clusters are shaped like drumsticks. The plant is low and mounding. It's a perennial, and it's usually only found in areas with Ordovican limestone, and it's generally found near Mormon tea.
This family is both insect and wind pollinated. However, plants mainly rely on insects for pollination. The buckwheat has 2 different types of flowers, pin flowers and thrum flowers. Both have only one ovule. Pin flowers have short stamens with a long style, and thrum flowers have long stamens with a short style. A plant will usually produce only one or the other, and this helps promote cross-pollination. The stamens are organized in an inner and outer ring. An insect foraging for nectar must pass through both rings and gets covered in the pollen in the process. Depending on whether they are foraging on pin or thrum flowers, insect visitors will get pollen on the part of their body that is most likely to touch the stigma of the opposite flower type during foraging. The main pollinator of this family is the honeybee, although it does largely attract hoverflies or sweet bees since they tend to have higher amounts of nectar. As far as traditional ethnobotanical and modern agricultural uses go, agriculturally, common buckwheat is used in gardens to attract its main pollinator, honeybees and hoverflies. It's also really good for soil since it is a phosphorus pump, meaning it takes soil phosphorus and returns it in a more plant-friendly form. All right, and traditionally, the mountain sorrel is used by the Inuit in the Arctic to treat and cure scurvy. It's also very high in vitamin C, so it can be eaten raw or cooked. It's also very important for local insects and larger animals in northern Canada that feed on these plants. The common buckwheat is used commonly for its seeds. This can be used in place of other carbs such as rice, couscous, potatoes, or pasta. The crisp leaf buckwheat is used by Native Americans. They use this by boiling the leaves and stalks and mixing them into cornmeal for bread or with salt for dried cake. These leaves are also prepared to treat coughs and tuberculosis. While these plants are not inherently deadly, they do have a toxic compound called fagapirin, which is found in the buckwheat plant and is present in all parts of the plant except for the fully ripened seeds. This is toxic to dogs, but only toxic to humans in very large quantities. All right, moving on to any bonus facts about the species. The Frisco buckwheat is just one of Utah's endemic plants. Utah ranks 6th in the nation for its number of endemic species, and it turns out that our unique plants give us this high ranking. Utah has 2,602 plants in all, plus 393 subspecies or varieties. With 247 endemics, Utah has an endemism rate of 8.2%.
Oh my god, buckwheat!
Buckwheat.
Buckwheat!
Buckwheat.